The hard truth is this: most people are not exhausted because they care too much. They are exhausted because they care without control. They care about outcomes they cannot command, opinions they cannot regulate, and people who have no incentive to treat them well. That is not love. That is not loyalty. That is an untrained nervous system trying to buy safety with attention. In this episode, I'm going to show you the psychology of not caring. Not as apathy, not as coldness, but as a real internal shift where you stop leaking energy, you stop negotiating for validation, and you start becoming difficult to manipulate, difficult to provoke, and impossible to keep in a loop. And I'm going to do it in a way that actually changes your behavior. Because the whole internet talks about being unbothered, but most people are just performing indifference while still craving the same approval. The psychology of not caring begins with one distinction that changes everything. Not caring is not the absence of feeling. It is the absence of compulsive attachment to an outcome. It is when your brain stops treating external variables like they are survival. When you care too much, what's really happening is that your mind has fused your self-worth to a result. A text, a job, a reaction, a compliment, a win, a status signal, a person choosing you, a person staying. And once your worth is fused to an outcome, your body behaves like it is in a casino. Every small signal becomes a hit. Every delay becomes a threat. Every ambiguous moment becomes something you must solve. That is why you spiral. Not because you are weak, because your brain is doing what it evolved to do. It is scanning for control in an environment that feels uncertain. So when people say, "I wish I didn't care," what they usually mean is, "I wish my nervous system did not treat uncertainty like danger." And that is learnable. But you have to stop romanticizing caring. Caring is not always noble. Caring can be a form of control. Caring can be a form of self-abandonment. Caring can be an addiction to intensity. Caring can be a way to avoid the emptiness of your own life by making someone else the main event. So let's get brutally accurate. There are 3 types of caring, and only one of them is healthy. The first is value-based caring. This is when you care because something aligns with your values. You care about your work. You care about your integrity. You care about the people you love. You care about your craft. This type of caring makes you more stable, not less. The second is ego-based caring. This is when you care because you need a signal to confirm your identity. You need to be chosen. You need to be admired. You need to win. You need to be the exception. You need to be seen. This caring is hungry. It never finishes. It always asks for more evidence. The third is fear-based caring. This is when you care because you are afraid. Afraid of losing. Afraid of being replaced. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of being forgotten. Afraid of not being enough. Fear-based caring is the one that destroys peace, because fear-based caring turns your attention into a leash. And the moment your attention becomes a leash, someone else can pull it. They can bait you, ignore you, reward you, punish you, and your nervous system will keep responding. So the psychology of not caring is really the psychology of breaking the leash. Not by becoming numb, by becoming sovereign. Sovereign means your attention belongs to you. Your attention is not rented out to whoever triggers you. Your attention is not traded for crumbs. Your attention is not sacrificed to prove your worth. And that is why not caring looks like power. Because power is not loud. Power is choice. Here is the next truth. People think not caring means you stop wanting. No, You still want. You just stop needing the world to cooperate with your wanting for you to be okay. That is the entire shift. When you need the world to cooperate, you become desperate, and desperation is readable. Humans can sense it. Even if you say all the right things, desperation leaks in your timing, your tone, your over-explaining, your inability to tolerate silence, your obsession with being understood, your urge to correct how you are perceived. When you stop needing cooperation, you become calmer. And calm is attractive. Calm is credible. Calm makes people take you seriously. Now, why does the brain cling so hard? Why do you care so much, even when you know it is hurting you? Because caring is a strategy your mind uses to reduce uncertainty. If you care, you monitor. If you monitor, you feel like you are doing something. If you feel like you are doing something, you feel less helpless. That is why overthinking exists. Overthinking is not intelligence. Overthinking is a nervous system trying to convert uncertainty into certainty through mental effort. But uncertainty is not solved by thought. It is tolerated by regulation. So the psychology of not caring is the psychology of increasing your tolerance for uncertainty without self-betrayal. That is what mature detachment is. Let me make this concrete. Imagine two people waiting for the same outcome: a reply, a decision, a result. The first person is fused to the outcome. Their identity is inside it. They check repeatedly. They interpret every detail. They pre-write their response. They seek reassurance. Their body is tight. Their mind is loud. The second person wants the outcome, but they are not fused to it. They do not watch the door. They do not worship the result. They continue their life. They remain open, but not available for disrespect. They remain interested, but not desperate. That person looks like they do not care, but what is really happening is that they care from values, not from fear. They have chosen not to make the outcome their God. And that is why detachment feels like power, because detachment removes the hostage situation. Now, let's talk about the most misunderstood part. Not caring is not the same as not being affected. You can be affected and still be detached. You can feel hurt and still not chase. You can feel disappointed and still not beg. You can feel rejected and still not audition. Detachment is not about feeling nothing. Detachment is about not abandoning yourself when you feel something. Most people abandon themselves in two ways. They abandon themselves by collapsing, by trying to earn safety through pleasing, apologizing, explaining, giving more, shrinking. Or they abandon themselves by hardening, by becoming cruel, dismissive, superior, numb, unreachable. Both are strategies to avoid vulnerability. Real not caring is neither collapse nor hardening. Real not caring is internal steadiness. It is the ability to say, "This matters, but I am not going to lose my frame over it." And frame is the psychological structure that holds your identity. When your frame is weak, external events move you. When your frame is strong, external events inform you. That is the difference. So, how do you build that frame? The first step is to understand what you are truly caring about underneath the surface. Most people think they are caring about the person, the opportunity, the outcome. But underneath, they're caring about what the outcome means. If they text back, it means I am wanted. If I get accepted, it means I am worthy. If I win, it means I am safe. If I am admired, it means I exist. So you are not caring about the thing. You are caring about the identity confirmation. And identity confirmation is addictive because the brain loves certainty about identity. It hates ambiguity. If your identity is unclear, you will chase certainty through external signals. That is why people refresh, check, stalk, replay conversations, obsess over tone, interpret emojis, analyze silence, count time. It is an identity hunger disguised as connection. The psychology of not caring is learning to produce identity certainty internally, so you stop demanding it from outside. Now, I'm going to give you the most important concept of this entire video. When you stop caring, you stop paying. That is what changes everything. Right now, you are paying with attention. You are paying with energy. You are paying with emotional labor. You are paying with explanations. You are paying with access. You are paying with the willingness to tolerate disrespect just to keep proximity. And as long as you keep paying, the other side learns they do not have to change to keep receiving. This applies to relationships, to work environments, to friendships, to family dynamics, to status games, to social media, to anyone who benefits from your emotional output. Not caring is the moment you withdraw payment. It is not a tantrum. It is not a speech. It is a quiet economic shift. You stop subsidizing what does not reciprocate. And when you stop subsidizing, reality becomes visible. Because the truth is, some people do not like you. They like your investment. Some environments do not reward your talent. They reward your compliance. Some dynamics do not deepen with effort. They deepen with boundaries. So not caring is not a mood. It is a strategy to stop being exploited. Here is another uncomfortable truth. Caring too much can be a way to avoid your own power. Because when you focus on someone else, you do not have to face what you are not building in your own life. When you make someone else the project, you avoid the project of you. You avoid the boredom of discipline. You avoid the loneliness of choosing yourself. You avoid the fear of being fully responsible for your happiness. So you attach to drama because drama gives you purpose. It gives you a narrative. It gives you adrenaline. It gives you a reason to wake up. That is why detachment feels empty at first. Because when you stop caring in that compulsive way, you lose the emotional stimulation you were living on. That is not love withdrawal. That is dopamine withdrawal. Your brain got used to spikes. The hit of a message, the hit of attention, the hit of being seen, the hit of winning. And then when it goes quiet, your mind tries to reopen the casino. It tries to create a problem so it can create a solution. So it picks a new obsession, a new fear, a new threat. That is why becoming unbothered requires you to tolerate the first stage, which is quiet. Quiet is where people relapse. Quiet is where you want to text, explain, prove, perform, react. Because quiet feels like death to a nervous system addicted to activation. But quiet is where you become powerful. Because quiet is where you stop being predictable. And predictability is what people use to manipulate you. If they know you always respond, they can delay. If they know you always explain, they can twist. If they know you always chase, they can withdraw. If they know you always want closure, they can keep you open. Not caring makes you unpredictable to manipulation. Now, you might be thinking, but if I stop caring, won't I lose people? Sometimes yes. Because some people are only in your life because you are easy to pull. And when you stop being easy to pull, the bond is forced to become real or disappear. That is not a loss. That is a reveal. So here is the psychology of the reveal. When you stop caring, your nervous system stops broadcasting need. That changes how people treat you. You stop over-explaining, so there is less material to weaponize. You stop debating your boundaries, so there is less room to negotiate you down. You stop performing, so the only people who stay are people who value your real self. And that is why the world changes when you detach. It is not magic. It is selection. Detachment acts like a filter. It removes the people who require your anxiety to function. It attracts people who respect clarity. Now, let's talk about not caring about opinions, because that is what most people mean when they say they want the psychology of not caring. Not caring about opinions is not arrogance. It is discernment. It is the ability to separate signal from noise. If you care about every opinion, you will be controlled by the most confident person in the room. Confidence is not accuracy. Loud is not truth. So you need a system for whose opinion matters. Here is the system. Only accept feedback from people who have one of three things: competence in the domain you care about, care for your well-being, or responsibility for the outcome. If someone has none of these, their opinion is entertainment, not guidance. Most people let strangers edit their identity. That is insane. It is like letting random pedestrians redesign your home and then crying when the furniture feels wrong. Not caring is when you stop outsourcing your self-definition. Now, let's get into the deeper brain mechanisms, because understanding the machinery helps you stop blaming yourself. When you care too much, your amygdala is often involved. The amygdala is the brain's threat detection system. It lights up when something feels uncertain, socially risky, or potentially rejecting. Social rejection and physical pain overlap in the brain. That is why being ignored can feel like a physical ache. That is why being excluded can feel like panic. Your brain treats social belonging like survival because historically it was. So when you try to not care, you are often fighting a survival circuit. That is why shallow advice fails. Because you cannot talk your amygdala out of fear. You have to show it evidence. Evidence that you will not die if someone disapproves. Evidence that you will not collapse if someone withdraws. Evidence that you can hold your frame and still be okay. And how do you create evidence? Through behavior. Not through affirmations, through repeated actions that prove to your nervous system, I can tolerate discomfort without chasing relief. That is detachment. So you want the psychology of not caring. Here is the real definition. Not caring is the skill of delaying relief. That is it. Because caring too much is usually a compulsive attempt to get relief now. Relief from uncertainty, relief from rejection, relief from silence, relief from not knowing, relief from shame. You reach out, you explain, you check, you apologize, you perform, you post, you react, you fix, you overfunction, all to get relief now. Not caring is when you stop purchasing relief with dignity. You let discomfort exist without acting from it. That is why unbothered people look powerful. They are not more lucky. They are more trained. Now, let's apply this to relationships without turning it into an attachment lecture. The psychology is the same. When you care too much in relationships, you start managing someone else's perception of you. You start trying to control their feelings, their attention, their commitment, their availability. You start living in their nervous system instead of your own. Not caring is when you return to your own nervous system, and you stop chasing clarity from someone who is not offering it. That does not mean you do not want closeness. It means you stop begging for it. Because begging destroys attraction, and it destroys self-respect. So how does detachment make people come closer? Because people move towards stability. Even people who are avoidant, even people who are inconsistent, they are still human. When you are stable, you become safe. When you are safe, you become easy to approach. But here is the key that most people miss. You can be safe without being free. Free is when access costs nothing. Safe is when your presence is calm. Detachment creates safe without free. That is the sweet spot. Now, you might say, okay, I understand the concept, but how do I live it without becoming cold? You live it by using decision rules. You do not need motivation. You need rules. Because motivation is mood-based. Rules are identity-based. Here are the rules that unbothered people live by, and notice how none of them require you to be cruel. Rule 1. Do not explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Explanation is for connection, not for negotiation. If someone has already decided you are wrong, your explanation is just free labor. Rule 2. Do not chase clarity from confusion. If someone is confusing, that is the clarity. Confusion is information. It means the environment is unstable. Rule 3. Do not reward inconsistency with increased access. If someone gives you crumbs and you give them a feast, you train crumbs. Rule 4. Do not perform your boundaries. Enforce them quietly. The more you perform them, the more you reveal how much you still need a reaction. Rule 5. Do not make permanent decisions at emotional peaks. Peaks are where your nervous system lies to you. Peaks tell you this is urgent, this is forever, this is the only chance. Peaks are where you betray yourself. Unbothered people wait until the peak passes, then they decide. Rule 6. Do not argue with someone's reality if their reality is the tool they use to control you. Some people will try to drag you into debate to keep you hooked. Not caring is refusing the debate. You do not need to win the argument to win your life. Now, let's go further. Not caring is not just about other people. It is about outcomes. Work, money, goals, results. Most people ruin their goals because they care in a panicked way. They care so much, they start checking results too early. They start changing strategy too often. They start seeking external validation too soon. They start quitting because the early data looks bad. But any serious goal has a quiet phase. The psychology of not caring is the ability to stay consistent through the quiet phase without demanding applause. That is discipline. And discipline is not aggression. Discipline is the ability to do the same thing without needing immediate emotional payoff. People who do not care are often people who have learned to separate effort from immediate reward. That is why they become unstoppable. Now, let's talk about a paradox that will make you smarter. When you truly stop caring, you often become more effective. Because caring too much narrows your thinking. It makes you reactive. It makes you interpret everything personally. It makes you perform rather than execute. Detachment widens your perception. You see patterns. You see incentives. You see reality. You stop wasting energy on defending your ego. And that is why detachment looks like intelligence. Because it is. It is the intelligence of not getting baited. Now, a lot of people confuse not caring with having no standards. Actually, not caring is often the highest standard. It is when you stop investing in what does not meet your standard. You stop arguing your standard. You stop pleading for your standard. You simply act in alignment with it. And that is why detachment is clean, because it is not loud, it is not bitter, it is not a performance. It is a quiet shift in access. Now, I want to talk about the emotional aftermath, because this is where you either become unbothered or you become a performer of not caring. When you detach, you might feel guilt, because if you are used to caring as a form of earning love, detachment will feel selfish. You might feel emptiness, because your life had too much focus on external validation. You might feel anger, because you realize how much energy you gave away. These are normal. But here is the key. You do not resolve these feelings by going back to the old behavior. You resolve them by letting your identity catch up to your boundaries. Your identity is going to resist at first, because your identity is built from past survival. If in the past you had to perform to be safe, detachment will feel dangerous. So your nervous system will tempt you to relapse. It will say, just text, just explain, just check, just prove, just fix. That is the old strategy begging to stay alive. And every time you do not act, you are not being passive, you are being trained. You are training your nervous system to tolerate discomfort and remain intact. And that is the only way you become truly unbothered. Now, let's talk about how to communicate detachment without sounding cold, because that matters. Detachment communication is short. It is not emotional. It is not dramatic. It does not seek permission. It is calm. It is final. The more you talk, the more you reveal you still need something. Unbothered communication is usually one sentence. I hear you. I'm comfortable with my decision. I'm not available for that. I'm open to this. I'm not open to that. That is it. People think I need to justify. They do not. Justification is often a bid for approval disguised as clarity. So, if you want not caring to change your life, you have to stop bargaining for approval. You make your decision. You live it. You let reality respond. Now, I want to address the fear that sits underneath all of this. The fear is, if I stop caring, I will lose love. If I stop caring, I will become alone. If I stop caring, I will miss my chance. But here is the psychological truth. The version of you that cares compulsively is not securing love. It is securing anxiety. It is securing control games. It is securing unstable people. Stable love does not require you to chase. Stable respect does not require you to beg. Stable opportunity does not require you to humiliate yourself. So the fear is based on a lie your nervous system learned. It learned that you must earn safety by caring harder, that you must earn closeness by performing, that you must earn respect by over-delivering, that you must earn love by shrinking. Detachment is the moment you stop believing that. Now, let's go into the kind of not caring that is most powerful, and that is outcome independence. Outcome independence means you can be present, warm, engaged, even intense, without losing your center. You can desire without needing. You can love without pleading. You can try without begging. You can risk without panicking. That is psychological maturity. And the reason it makes you magnetic is because it removes pressure. People feel pressure even when you do not speak it. They feel it when you need them to validate you. They feel it when you need them to pick you. They feel it when you need them to reply quickly. They feel it when you need them to like you. And people resist pressure because pressure is a demand on their nervous system. So when you become outcome independent, you become lighter. You become clearer. You become harder to control. And that is why everything changes. Now, I want to give you the final integration, because this is what turns a good concept into a new identity. Not caring is not a personality trait. It is an agreement you make with yourself. The agreement is, I will not purchase certainty with self-betrayal. I will not purchase closeness with anxiety. I will not purchase approval with performance. I will not purchase safety with silence about my needs. I will not purchase peace by shrinking. And once you make that agreement, you begin to treat your attention like a valuable asset. You stop donating it to anyone who uses it against you. You stop giving it to outcomes you cannot control. You stop giving it to people who are inconsistent. And then something strange happens. Your life becomes simpler. The noise drops, the loops close, and the only things you care about are things that actually build your future. That is the psychology of not caring. It is not that nothing matters. It is that fewer things matter, and you are finally the one choosing what. Welcome to PsychBond. You're safe here.